Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Monday, November 29th, 2021 edition of Track Announcer's Notebook. As always, Pat Gonzalez, along with my co-host and producer, Stuart Nodell. Our special guest tonight is CSBK 2015 Amateur National Sport Bike Champion, Alex Cuello, who's done pretty well as a pro rider, but not a whole lot of racing and riding over the last couple of years. But Alex is going to be back on track this coming weekend at Miami Homestead Speedway, the Championship Cup Series final race of the season down there. And it's been a long time coming, as Alex and everybody else has been dealing with COVID-19. So we'll talk about his race coming up this weekend. We'll talk about his run in the Daytona 200, going back 2 years after we all left there back on the 13th of March 2020, and talking about his CSBK season coming up in 2022. So lots to catch up on with Alex Cuello, but as always, first up, we've got Nodell's notes. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I'm just going to share my screen here. And the first order of business here I've got, Pat, is I just wanted to thank Nathan Naslund again, who did send us a lot of information on Paul Fournier to help along with the show we did last week. And for anybody that wasn't joining us last week, that Paul Fournier had passed. And obviously we memorialized some of his achievements. But I also wanted to share this plaque that was made in Paul's honor for the Canadian Motorcycle Hall of Fame induction that's going to be coming up this March in Montreal. So if anyone's in the area, definitely reach out and go to that event.
Well, you know, Nathan Naslund, Pete Snell, and others try to get this plaque to Paul. They knew he was gravely ill. Sadly, it arrived a day late, but hopefully this will get to Paul's family, and of course his actual Hall of Fame induction medal that all of the inductees receives, that will be presented to his wife and family coming up in March at Montreal. And Stuart, it's on my schedule to get down there for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's great, Pat, if you're able to get there. I guess now with retirement life, you have a little bit more free time periodically.
Yeah, a little bit. The schedule is opening up.
Good. And it doesn't, your golf season doesn't really start, I guess, till around the Masters time. So you're good there. And then another news, Pat, it was announced late last week that Prime Video is going to create a behind the scenes sort of following the action of about 8 MotoGP racers, kind of like the Netflix series they have for Formula One car racing. So it sounds like it's going to be a great reality type show. And hopefully that generates even more interest in the sport.
Well, it certainly has helped. The Netflix series on Formula One has really helped the growth of Formula One, particularly in those countries where it did not have as great a following as it did in some European countries. And I would think that MotoGP partnering with Prime Video, that I think we're going to see similar results for MotoGP.
And then I also found, again, our friend of the show, Don Emdy, has a lot of great things online, Pat. And there's this book about when Honda went dirt track racing. Apparently, Gerald Foster and Chris Carter have done a lot of research, and they've spent over 7 years building this book. So I've got the email there if anyone is interested. I'm not sure the cost or its availability, but certainly reach out. It sounds like it's a pretty awesome piece.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that book, but Stuart, I know that Chris Carter, the late Chris Carter, who I announced with many years at Daytona, did pass away, I think a couple of years ago. So probably best to reach out to Don Emdy to see how, if you're interested in a copy of this book. Now, I'm sure Chris was very much involved in putting that together, and you know, he was a great announcer and a brilliant writer.
For sure. And then in further news, again, late last week, Pat, it was announced that there's going to be a North American Talent Cup. And I think it's going to impact a lot of, rising young racers. And it seems like they're targeting kids between about the ages of 13 and 16. And it's really going to stem from the riders that are riding in the O'Valley series. So I think a great person we should have on or either get some information from would be Tony Sharpless, because I'm sure some of the young riders in her series would potentially be impacted by this. I don't know how it's going to work in terms of actually getting enrolled in this North American Talent Cup, but they are making formal announcements as of December 1. So just a couple days away, we'll know more of the criteria. And I think they're allowing up to about 20 riders in year one, with the hope of expanding it to about 26 riders in total over the next couple of years.
Okay, yeah, we'll follow up on this story for sure in the coming weeks, and we will have Tony Sharpless on the show. She right now is working on her supersonic mini road racing series championship, looking at hosting events in BC and Quebec and Ontario for the first season. But seems a lot of interest, a real youth movement in road racing, trying to get some of these young kids started really early and create that ladder system.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in part with this part and parcel is it is also an association with the American racing team. So I think they are starting their own academy for North American riders to kind of bring, like you said, through that ladder system. And it seems like there's about 4 tiers of it, whether it's the O'Valleys, the Aprilia Cup bike, and then you've got like the KTM Red Bull Rookies Cup. There's a whole feeding system into it. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses. And then just one further note before we get to our special guest, Pat, I did see earlier today that Daryl Fletcher's bid to get Steve Crevier, who we did have on last week, inducted into the BC Sports Hall of Fame, wasn't successful this year, but they have, I think, 2 more opportunities to do so over the next 2 years.
Yeah, I know Daryl's put a lot of time and effort into that. Steve wasn't selected this first go round, but I think they've got a shot. Only a couple of other motorsport people are in that BC Sports Hall of Fame, including the late Greg Moore. But here we have our 2015 CSBK Amateur Sport Bike Champion, Alex Cuello, and looks the shot on the left. Alex on his machine at CTMP that championship year. Alex, I know we talked to you last year just when Stuart and I were getting started with Track Announcer's Notebook to get you on the show. You haven't done a lot of racing the last couple of years, but you're looking to get back on track, if you will, this weekend. How tough has it been not really doing any racing the last couple of years for you?
It's been really hard. I did race last year for the condensed CSBK series where we did 1 Calabogie and 1 Mosport. So I was present on that, but it wasn't a lot of riding, obviously. COVID being what it is and what it did to our series up here in North America kind of hindered a bit, my abilities to ride and to practice and so on. And I'm not one to ride winter. So I don't do the dirt bike on ice. So my time that I spend on the bike is during the summer only. And being that we're in Canada, well, that's like 3 to 4 months maybe that we get to ride for good weather, if we get good weather. So it's going to be challenging for this weekend, that's for sure.
Well, I got a whole bunch of other questions. I want to talk about your big weekend coming up at Homestead with the Championship Cup Series. But first up, Stuart, I think we've got a bunch of questions and comments in the Q&A for Alex.
Yeah, we do, Pat. I'll go through them. The one question is, with Alex going to be attempting to do the Daytona 200, so long as he can get across the border this coming March, do you have a pit speed limiter on the bike yet?
Yes, I do. I've always had one since I've had the Woolwich system, so I'm good there on that side. I just need to know how to adjust it in order to arrive at the 60-mile limit speed.
And then what is going to be your strategy, and what choice of tire will you be running at Daytona?
The strategy is not there quite. I'm still looking for the team that's going to help and work with that team in order to strategize the event in question. As for tires, that's still up in the air. I'm still hoping that someone's going to come forward and participate in the team. And we're going to take it from there. So my biggest challenge right now is Homestead coming up this weekend, to see how my past surgeries that I just went through at the end of 2020 and summer of 2021, and see if I can handle just sprint races. And I'll decide by the time I come back if Daytona is going to be 100%. I mean, I'm already on the phase. The engine is bought, so the ball's rolling.
That's awesome. And then the last question here, and it comes in from Pat Barnes, is with a question mark, Isle of Man in 2022.
Only if he's my crew. Only if he's gonna be my pit crew. I don't think so. That's another set of cojones that you need to ride the Island of Man. I don't think I've got that at all.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. Although there's some new safety protocols I think they've announced actually just recently, but I haven't looked enough into it.
Okay.
But that's it for now, Pat.
Okay, Alex.
Hey, Pat.
Alex, Pat Barnes, a frequent visitor to Track Announcers Notebook. Alex, you talked about a couple of surgeries in 2020 and in 2021. Did COVID provide an opportunity for you to get those surgeries done, or was it something you were going to do anyways? And what was the nature of the injuries that you had to correct?
So one of them was one that I've been struggling a whole lot, especially in tight, bumpy tracks like Shubenacadie in Nova Scotia, or I get arm pump. So like most racers, or a lot of racers, that get that whole issue with the arm pump. I get it. I've been having it for the last 6 years. And obviously getting older, it's not getting any easier. It comes back quicker, and it's just a hassle. So I got that settled in December of 2020. And the other one's an old injury from the right shoulder that had to be redone. So they had to cut the bicep, reattach the tendon of the bicep, and do the rotary cuff. So that was a success in itself. I know that, and I still have yet to test the arm pump, obviously, because I haven't been to a track that will give me the challenge in order to test it.
So when did you make the decision to get back on the track here with the CCS event at Homestead?
Well, actually, I wanted to go back in October for Daytona, obviously, to get some, practice in before the Daytona 200, because it's still in my bucket list to do it. So I wanted to go back, even if it was shortly after the surgery. I still wanted to ride the track in order to remember it and trying to get a setup going with the bike. Obviously, because of the land borders being still closed, that was postponed, and trying to go now, even though it's not Daytona. I think it'll give me a close enough feel to how to ride in that type of weather, because it is hot and humid in Florida. So
yeah, I looked at the forecast for the weekend, 26 Celsius, and looks like
nice.
pretty much dry the entire weekend. So you're going to have great weather for it. Now, I believe you get on the road tomorrow morning. Take us through how you're going to get to South Florida in time for the weekend. Are you flying solo here, or you've got a crew who's going to accompany you down to Homestead?
No, I am flying solo, driving that is solo. So yeah, 29-hour drive. Obviously, I'm gonna take my time. So I'm leaving tomorrow morning, 5:30, between 5:30 and 6 a.m. Cross the border, make my way into, hopefully by Wednesday afternoon, into South Carolina to drop off the engine at KWS, who are the ones that did the previous engine on the bike. And at the same time, get a little quick tune-up of this one right now for Homestead. And hopefully make it there by Thursday evening. If the gates are still open, great, I'll go pit. If not, then I'll just sleep right in front of the gates and wait till they open.
So the CCS racing is Saturday and Sunday, but I believe you're also taking part in the Ducati Revs Miami Penguin Road Racing School program. Tell us about that, and how much track time is that going to afford you before the actual CCS weekend?
So yeah, Penguin's going to be there with dealers of Miami Ducatis, which is open to pretty much anyone that has any other brand of bike. And looking forward to it because it will be needed to try the track prior to the events. Because like we know, CCS events, they're condensed, they're quick, they're fast. Not a lot of riding time on track for practices and so on. So a track day, the prior day will be very welcome.
Yeah, and I understand Jake Zemke and Josh Herron are going to be there as instructors for the Penguin Road Racing School. Herron, of course, scheduled to race that Ducati in the Daytona 200. As a guy who's racing a 2013 Kawasaki 636, any concerns that your bike really isn't going to be ultra competitive against some of the newer machines that are going to be racing at Daytona?
No, Mike Godden from KWS is an awesome mechanic. He's gonna do the engine from scratch. He's gonna look over the bike. He's gonna make sure that it's in tip-top shape. So I'm not really worried about that. More worried about my own physical conditioning compared to these youngsters. Because, yeah, I'm getting up there. So it's the bike will not be the issue. If I could get someone to tune suspension wise during the event, I think we're going to be good for a good result.
And how many classes are you planning on racing this weekend with CCS?
So I'm planning on doing 5 times 2. So 5 on Saturday and the same ones on the Sunday right after. So 10 in total.
So after 10 races, you will have a better indication as to whether or not the surgery for the arm pump and the shoulder have provided the results that you can seriously think of running 57 laps, 200 miles come March.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great indicator come that time at the end of the weekend to see how everything pans out for the shoulder and the arm pump. We're just going to see how because I haven't been training obviously because of the surgeries. So I'm slowly getting back into it. So honestly, it's more to see how the shoulder and the forearm is doing. From there, I'll know better if we go ahead or not.
Okay, and
but we are going to go ahead.
And at this point, are you looking at doing any other races prior to the 200 in March, assuming that you're moving forward with an entry for the 200?
No, there's nothing in the plan there was something that was sort of interesting that caught my eye. It's at Daytona in January, if I'm not mistaken, with Amra.
The ARMA event, yeah.
Yeah, so if I could find a bike that I can ride there and I could just fly myself into just for the weekend and just take a long weekend off here from work and the school, that might come into play. That might actually help me out a lot. So that's still lingering. So if Ken Adam hears this there, because I know he was offering his bike. So who knows? Maybe we could hook something and work something out for January at Daytona.
Yeah, and just some track time on the speedway, even if it isn't your Kawasaki
Yeah.
636 would be beneficial. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
There was that question earlier in terms of tires. What tires are you planning on running at Homestead this weekend? Because I assume you've been running Dunlops in CSBK, of course, the last couple of years.
Correct. Yeah. So the bike is set up for this for the Dunlops. So we're gonna go ahead and ride that. I was fortunate enough to have Speed Factory 67 hit me up with some fresh rubber that they still had in stock. So the last minute they provided that. So that was great. Thank you so much, guys. So the bike is set up for that. I'm not gonna start playing around and fiddling. I'm not exactly a guru when it comes to suspension like John Cornwall is. So we're gonna run the Dunlops for this weekend, and after we'll see, what comes of it, and who steps forward.
All right, Stuart, I think we've got some other questions for Alex before we continue with our conversation.
Yeah, Pat, thanks. I'll just pull up the Q&As here. And the first question is, do you already have quick change set up on the bike?
Yes. So because I participated in 2020, because technically we did participate, we qualified. So we do have the front wheel quick system and the rear. We also got the extra fuel tank with the female dry brake. So for that aspect, we're set. And I kept everything, so nothing has been changed. Everything's on.
Thanks. And then the next question, Alex, or it's more of a comment than a question, is Jason Williams had watched you back in 2015 at Edmonton, and he remembers you racing quite well, and he has all the confidence you're in great shape and you're going to be fine and healthy and good to go for 2022.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate
and then
it.
the last one we have here, guys, and it's just more of a comment. Mike Walsh, who's a longtime Canadian Daytona 200 runner, wishes you all the best of luck. He said, been there, done that. He's probably the mileage record for Canadians, I would think, Pat.
Seriously. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mike certainly raced there many, many times and has been part of a number of crews for the Daytona 200. Wouldn't be surprised to see him down there this coming March. Alex, in terms of the speed limit now, 60 miles an hour, you've got the speed control unit on the motorcycle. Did you prefer how CCS and ASRA did it with no speed limit for all the years they ran the 200, and now with Moto America coming in, speed limit, 110% qualifying rule? Comment on those two changes from your perspective.
Well, being a racer, we do push a lot for safety. I do believe that the 60 mile an hour speed limit is good. Again, I've never really participated in the event itself where everyone was zooming in and out. From my perspective, imagining it seemed a little bit reckless. With all due respect, obviously, to CCS in the way they ran their Daytona 200. I believe that a legit speed is entitled. I mean, we see it everywhere else in MotoGP and the F1 and other events. So I welcome it. I'm pretty sure other riders also welcome it. And yeah, as for the 110, yeah, that should always be involved in racing, regardless how big your grids are. It's dangerous to have lappers with a different huge gap between the fastest and the slowest. So the 110 is good. It's safer. Yes, it'll probably thin out a little bit the grid, but who knows? Maybe it won't. I mean, Moto America comes back. Maybe we'll have more competitive riders from Moto America themselves participating and bringing in more good talent. And you know what? It'll just get us slower riders a little bit quicker.
Well, I know there was talk that percentage might go as low as 108, and that would have eliminated quite a number of riders. I think 115, as you said, does make it where the closing speeds between the fastest and the slowest probably not the safest situation. So I think they found the sweet spot there at 110%. And before starting here, I think we were doing the quick calculation that you pretty much have to go under 2 minutes in order to qualify for the 200. Any sense, Alex, as to where the pole time is going to be? Are we looking at a high minute 47 based on some of the new teams and some of the new equipment, including that Ducati 955 V2 that you will see this weekend at Homestead?
Yeah, I don't. From the new bikes, I don't know. It's in development, right? It's brand new. They haven't tested it yet, so I don't know if Josh Aaron's going to be able to do those kind of lap times. But that kid is so talented that who knows? Any two wheels that kid rides it, he goes fast. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see sub 48s. There's a lot of good talent that's going to show up for the 2022 Daytona 200. So I'm anticipating it to be really low. And let's see if Josh Aaron could beat the record again. And this time.
Just lost you there for a sec, Alex. Hopefully we've got you back. Okay, you're back. When you, assuming everything goes well, you're there in March, it'll be, believe it or not, 2 years since you were at Daytona. In those the qualifying sessions, you had a lap that was good enough to make the field. I believe a minute 56 and change, and probably the potential to go into the 55s on that final qualifying session that didn't happen. Take us back almost 2 years and what you experienced just on that Friday, the anticipation, and then the bitter disappointment for you and so many others when the weekend was canceled, that riders meeting in Victory Lane.
Yeah, so it was very stressful because it's something that I've never lived through. And this was the second time that I was at the Daytona International Speedway. So I had never been there except for October 2019 with CCS. The team that I had that was going to work with me was also doing their own thing. So they were doing the CCS events while we were doing the practices for the Daytona 200. So there wasn't a lot of hands on deck. So it made it challenging because everything's on a time schedule, time frame. So it made it real stressful. I didn't get out on the first qualify. I didn't get out until I think halfway through it because I had an issue with the tank that was not venting properly. So I had to come out. We had to pull it out. We had to put the new tank back on. I had to go back out. Tires were cold. So a lot of setbacks, to say the least. But once we got things figured out between first and second qualifying, things were better. Bike was not set up because we were running another brand of tires. So the bike was a little bit too spongy for the tires that I had on. So it, it gave me a challenge, and I was running on scrubs. So still pulled off the 156, which was nice. So I was really eager and excited for the third one to have new rubber on and to have an adjustment that was done on the bike. And I was aiming for the 55s, whether it be low or mids. I would have been content just being in the 55s. But with all that done, knowing that I had qualified 23rd out of 80, that actually was quite, pleasing. So all that was good until we got the third qualifying canceled due to technical issues. And since they weren't built, they weren't resolved. Well, then we went to writers' meeting for the 4:00 p.m. And that's when we got the bitter disappointment news that they were shutting us down and that they were literally kicking us out right then and there. So, yeah, it was a hard pill to swallow. I mean, we're all the way from up here, Canada, going all the way down, $20,000 in the hole for no show. I'm still bitter about it, actually. 2 years later, I still am. Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Pat.
Sorry, did you head out of Daytona right away, Alex, and head back to Montreal, or what did you do the following day?
Following day, we pulled out. Like, we stayed Saturday, well, the Friday to Saturday, and we made our way back up, and we sort of took a few days, we went to Alexandria, we went to Myrtle Beach. So, we took the long route home since we had the time off. And it helped, instead of just driving angry back home or bitter disappointed or whatnot, we relaxed. I mean, it happened, something that's out of our control. We were all healthy. So, we took a little trip.
Made the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
Stuart, I think we've got another question for Alex, and then I want to talk to him about the upcoming CSBK championship.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I guess the question would be, Alex, since going to Daytona is going to be such a great opportunity for you, do you have a favorite part of the racetrack? And on the flip side of that, is there a part of the racetrack that you either dislike or that you struggle with?
Sorry, what was the first part of the question?
Your favorite part of racing around Daytona, the favorite part of the track.
God, come on, what question is that? It's the banking. It's the banking is hallucinating. It's unbelievable. I've never ever felt that before. To be wide open in sixth gear for so long, with the pressure of the wind blowing around you and pushing you down, it's incredible. That is the favorite part. I gotta say, I love the chicane right before getting into the second banking. That is fun to get in and out of. So yeah, that would be my top two. And the other one, I think it was the worst part.
The worst or
the
weakness that you have at that track.
Yes, the first horseshoe. I can't get. I think it's corner three or two. Yeah. The horseshoe. Yeah, that one I have a hard time with. I need someone to really coach me on that one because I lose a lot of time. So
it's flat.
Yeah, it's flat, but it's like I can't say it's a double apex. It sort of cuts tight and then opens up. It's yeah.
You got to make it like a triangle.
I needed. Yes, exactly. But you can't go too wide, or else you get someone sneaks in on the inside. So, yeah, I wanted to go in October just for that. Actually, for the horseshoe.
Awesome. And the only other comment we got was that some people think the Ducati is going to check out on everybody, but that's yet to be determined.
Yeah, when we had Rick Hobbs on a few weeks ago, and then subsequently Jonathan Cornwell and Darren Marshall, the big job ahead here is to make sure that all of the motorcycles are relatively close on performance. So I don't know how they're going to do all that, but hopefully they'll be able to get that sorted out, whether it's weight or the mapping or any other rules, just so that we've got the kind of close racing we've seen with CCS and ASRA having run the 200. No question, whether you've got issues about speed limits on pit road or the qualifying percentage, the racing pretty much at every one of the events since CCS took it over was incredible, including the finish that we saw back in March of this year. Alex, I know the CSBK schedule came out a few weeks ago. What is your take on the CSBK schedule? And I assume you're planning on running all of the rounds.
That one's still in limbo right now. The plan is to, yes, indeed do it because, well, it's home. You want to encourage local, obviously. So it all has to do, I would tell you, because of time constraint. I do own a business other than having my full-time job. So taking all that time away from my partner, I don't think she'd appreciate it too much that I am always absent. And we'll see. And it also has a lot to do with the finances. My main sponsor is my left pocket and my right pocket. So at this moment, it's costing a lot. So the goal is to work towards doing a CSBK for sure. I can't wait to get back to Nova Scotia. I miss those guys. The ambiance over there is amazing, and 2 years without seeing them, it's just too long. So looking forward to that too. And obviously to get back to a certain normality of racing here back in Canada, even though we don't have a Quebec round, which would be amazing to have back if we could get a decent track to accept. It's overdue. It's been 2 years too long.
Yeah, what is the current situation in Quebec in terms of a viable racetrack to host the CSBK round? Are we going to have to wait till maybe a new racing facility is built? Because right now it does not look as though Mont Tremblant, Icar, or what's left of Saint Air, any of those tracks are really a viable venue for a CSBK national.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the issue. So Tremblant, the biggest issue with Mont Tremblant, which is a beautiful, beautiful track, is the locals around complaining about sound. So we're limited by that. And like we all know, race bikes make over a certain decibels that no track here will accept almost. So that's an issue, obviously. The other one is the safety aspect of corner one, which still has not been addressed, and they don't seem to want to address it. So that one's pretty much out of the gate. And then there's Icar and Mirabel, which if they don't move railings and they don't make better runoffs, either put sand traps or something, that's also not a viable option at all to race, not for our safety. So, and then every other track that there is in Quebec, they're quite small, so it wouldn't be able to take a super bike. The lightweights would be awesome in certain venues. Then 600 are limited in pretty much every other track, just like a super bike. So we're limited. We're very, very limited. I mean, when Center Stash went down, it pretty much, it was a big blow for us. So unless somebody comes up with some money to either modify track, improve the safety, or just literally build a new one where the the locals ain't gonna complain. It's tough for us. It really is. I mean, we love racing. We love racing in Ontario. Yes, we got amazing tracks there. You guys got amazing tracks, but we got decent ones that just unfortunately are not up to par yet.
So Alex, you brought up the fact that you may not run all of the CSBK rounds. If you had to pick two that would be on your calendar, you mentioned Shubenacadie. Are you going out there, even though it's going to be a little bit more expensive than, say, going to a Calabogie or a Canadian Tire Motorsport Park?
So yeah, Shuby would have been probably, I used to do Shuby a lot because it was like a vacation. I take a week and a half off, take my time going down, stop off at New Brunswick, visit a few towns, restaurants. I like that. Being constrained with time now because of the business, it changes the ball game a bit. So ideally would be to have the closest ones. So it would be Calabogie and Mossport. Nothing off the table, obviously, but they would have to be those two just because they're right next to us.
Right. And you mentioned you did do a couple of races over the last couple of years. As a fan as well, in addition to a competitor, give us your take on the 2021 season, what you saw both in sport bike, and then, of course, fellow Quebecer Alex Dumas winning the Superbike Championship at age 19.
Wow, what can you say about that kid? She's just got talent coming and spewing out of his ears. It's unbelievable. He's got a great father to boot too. Obviously, Francois has got a lot of talent, so obviously it runs in a family. So yeah, he did a great showing. I mean, the kid is calm, cool, collected. Nothing fazed him. He went up against the best that Canada had to offer. I mean, he did it in the States as well, and never bothered. Doesn't ride over his head. It was an awesome season for Superbike. It was great racing for sure. Instead of just having two protagonists, you actually had many this year, including Trevor Daley. I mean, even Sebastian Tremblay was up there with his 1000, even with the 600. So that was impressive. So yeah, for the Superbike, it was fun for the spectators. For the 600, it was a little bit like Marquez back in the day. So you had Tremblay running away with everything and everyone else fighting for the leftovers. So he did an amazing season. I mean, and what can you say about Tremblay? He's just calm, cool, collected kid too. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he just knows how to go fast. He's smooth at it too. So all in all, a lot of kids stepped up this year. You had McKay, Vieira. Those two guys were really dicing it up. Le Villain from Speed Factory 67, man, he was on point at the beginning of the season. Christian Allaire too was there. I mean, Massey did great showings in all the races. So, I mean, we got great talent. I mean, in Canada, we do have great talent. We need to exploit it just a bit more, and we could have way more races that are that exciting to watch.
And Alex, your bike you're racing this weekend, same bike you had at Daytona a couple of years ago with updates. How did you get connected with KWS in the US to build your motors, as opposed to maybe working with one of the engine builders or companies here in Canada? How did that all come about?
Well, being that they're very limited here in expertise, most of the top mechanics are, if you can't get a hold of them right away, they're pretty much taken and overbooked. So I was told about KWS through American forums, the WERA forum. So I hit them up, called them up, found out what they were all about, and you know, I felt comfortable by the way they were talking, and visited the shop and decided to drop the bike off, and on a whim decided to do the Daytona 200 for 2020, and just left the bike when I came back from Daytona in 2019.
So is the bike, the motorcycle there in South Carolina at KWS?
No, the bike is with me.
Okay,
Presently. So I got the engine, I got a new engine, and I got the whole bike set up. I'm taking it down, everything's going down with me. The engine's gonna stay with them. They already got the parts, it's all ordered. And the bike is just gonna go on the dyno to just get tweaked to bring everything back up, because here in Canada, we're limited to 125. So they had to detune it. So we're gonna bring that all back up, because in the States, there's no horsepower, just can't touch the components, obviously.
Right.
So we're gonna get that back up to where she can run freely.
so your Canadian Motor 125, you're gonna have more than that horsepower going to Homestead this weekend. And the
Yep.
motor you're dropping off, are they building that specifically for Daytona based on the new Moto America FIM Super Sport regs? And what
Correct.
kind of horsepower are you looking at there?
Well, we're hoping to pull between 135 at least. So that's what I'm hoping to see out of that engine. I think they could do it. We're allowed doing cams, so they're gonna do it. They're gonna do all that is legal to do. They're gonna do it.
Stuart, anything in the Q&A? Again, if you've just joined us late on Track Announcer's Notebook, our guest is 2015 CSBK National Amateur Sport Bike Champion, Alex Cuello, who's been a top 10 runner in the CSBK Pro Sport Bike Championship, a very limited 2020 and 2021 season, but he's getting back on track this weekend at Homestead at the Championship Cup Series final race of the year in Florida as a tune-up for a return to the Daytona 200 that looks like it's going to end up being 2 years in the making. Stuart, anything else for Alex?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. The question would be, since we started to see more of these production-built racing 600s being offered, do you think, Alex, this will be the way of the future where, you know, whichever brand you're going to choose, you're going to have an option to basically buy your bike race prepared, so that not everybody that has either the ability to build their own motorcycle, source the parts to have it built? Is this going to be something where it's a convenience thing where now as a rider, you can just have the budget, build the bike, maybe not an attack level Yamaha, but you could buy something sort of in between and maybe spend half of the budget, but still have a competitive turnkey race bike?
Well, I mean, it's a double-edged sword here, because if you still allow the modifications to prevail, I mean, you're gonna buy a bike that's already race ready. But if you're allowed playing with it, again, it's the ones that have the big budgets that are gonna get the most out of that machine. So you're already coughing up a lot of money on a build bike. Then to have to modify and put more investment into it, it's only those that have the resources that are gonna get something good out of those bikes. But I know that the 600 classes are sort of dying out, especially for street riding. So I wouldn't surprise me, but I also know that Honda has stopped making the 600. So I don't know if they're planning on coming back and doing what Yamaha's doing, or if we're just gonna go, if we're just gonna see, you know, 750s being built again, and we're just gonna put aside the 600, and the new Super Sport will be 750s. So I'd like it that all manufacturers would do all 600 exactly like Yamaha is doing, and that we keep it at that. So like everyone's on the same playing field, and may the best racer win, not just necessarily the bike.
So, and then outside of the actual hardware being the motorcycle, Like you're a guy with a background in martial arts, so I would think the mental side of the sport is such a huge component. You know, you see now some riders are having riders coaches. Would you think more people will lean towards having the guidance from the right person who can critique the riding, as opposed to, you know, a lot of riders now are almost like do it yourself type people. They're trying to sort out all this stuff on their own, and they can't really objectively look and critique their own riding.
Yeah, no, I think that that would be it's a touchy subject because there's a lot of people that you just can't tell them the truth. They get really, you know, like what's the word I'm looking for? They get sensitive, right? So that being said, it is a good thing because I think our athletes are getting younger and younger. I mean, they've got talent, and I think it's hard for them to enter this type of sport, whether it be road racing or any other one. And it is good to have guidance. It is good so they don't get lost in it, and that talent is not wasted in going down a rabbit hole that they might not be able to get out of. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. I know some people have a hard time with concentration or being calm, keeping cool and collected. So you have some when the lid goes down, that's all they see is red. And then there's others that can keep it cool. So I think it's not a bad thing to have a coach for that as well. I mean, we have coaches for training physically, so why not mentally? That is still a muscle, a brain. So I think it is a good thing. All in all, anything that can better a rider, they get better for sure.
Anything else, Stuart?
No, you're all clear there, Pat.
All right. If you do have a question or a comment for Alex Cuello, we're down to our last 10 minutes or so of the show. So hop on the Q&A and we'll have Stuart address that. Alex, what are your expectations or goals for this weekend? Are you going there to win races and finish on the podium, or is it more a weekend where this is really a prep and a test to see whether or not 2 years later you can start in your very first Daytona 200?
Oh, Pat, I don't go anywhere wanting to lose. The competitive side of me just wants to win. It's only normal. So yeah, I am aiming for podiums. But my main goal is to test the waters of my body and the endurance that I have and the physical aspect that I've been limited to for this last year. But yeah, I am going with the competitive edge for sure.
Have you looked at the pre-entry list? I assume you'll be racing against the likes of Stefano Mesa and other CCS regulars.
No, I haven't. I've yet to look at that. Not really wanting to bother too much with it because I'm not in the same league. I mean, Mesa is just one quick guy. Yeah, he's got talent. He really is good, and he's a fun kid too. He really is. But yeah, I'm just gonna go do my thing. My main objective would be in the F40, obviously, because of the age.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to capturing a few podiums there. So hopefully I could bring back some medals.
And you got you're running both the Formula 40 and Formula 40 middleweight, so a couple of opportunities to podium there. And then middleweight and heavyweight super sport. What's the fifth class that you've added to your schedule where you're going to be running 10 races at Homestead this weekend?
So middleweight super sport, I think it is middleweight superbike.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not gonna go into unlimited nor heavyweights because just gonna waste fuel and tires and energy for nothing. I don't even know the track, so who knows what's gonna happen.
So this is your first time to Homestead, so the
Yep.
Friday session's very important. I think we've got a few more questions here before we wrap up. Stuart?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. We've got a few comments here for Alex, and really it's just from friends, it looks like at the racetrack, from Rob Cousineau, wishing Alex all the best this weekend. And he knows that you guys are part of a special group of racers, and that it's great to see you back up and on the bike and doing what you love.
Thanks, Bob.
Is Cousineau going to be part of your team, pit crew at Daytona?
Hey, if he wants,
is he on the list?
so far, I've had a few people stepping forward, offering help. I mean, if these people really want to go, I'd be more than happy to have them, because I know they're good at wrenching. They know their way around a bike, and let's be honest, when you're doing a 200, you got to know what you're doing. So it'll be new for everyone. But yeah, if they want to come down, for sure, I'll pay the beer. I got no issue with that.
What else we have, Stuart?
Yeah, we just got some other people just wishing Alex all the best of luck, to do well and have fun. A lot of people are really rooting for you coming back from injury. And then we do have one question, Alex, with regard to the use of an airbag suit. Is that something that you use as part of your safety equipment? And if not, do you plan on getting one?
No, I don't use one. I've never planning on it, as no, it hasn't been in my list. Don't ask me why. For some reason, it looks like it's more of a nuisance. It looks like it catches in the wind. And at Daytona, you got to be as aerodynamic as you can. So I don't know how well the air could go around it and not through it between the vest and the suit itself. Because there's a lot of pressure, a lot of G pressure on your back when you're riding in the bags. So it's not something I'm looking at.
And then the final thing we've got here for you, Alex, is sounds like Pat Barnes can supply the crew with a question mark. So I know Pat's run and he's done races at Daytona, and I know he's helped crew for other people and done some endurance racing with the former Moto ST series.
Well, we could definitely talk, Pat. We could definitely talk. Coming back, do you mind if we go back to that whole comment of the airbag system? I don't plan on it because it's personal to myself, and I've mentioned that safety is key. I don't take nothing away from people that wear them, and I think they should, as should I. But for that event, I don't see it being something that would benefit me in those regards. But I do believe a lot in them, and I think they're part and they're key of our safety on the track.
Stuart, anything else?
No, that's all clear, Pat. I mean, we've had lots of discussion with regard to safety, Alex. So I know we've talked about just even safer barriers for protecting from fallen riders and so on. So it's always nice to get your insight on your opinion as well.
Yeah, Alex, I'm sure some of the folks on here might shake their head and think, how can a racer who, talks about safety not look at the latest technology, particularly when organizations like MotoGP and I believe World Superbike have made them mandatory. Is that what's sort of the bottom line? I know obviously those suits are more expensive than a traditional suit. Is it a cost issue? What exactly is it?
It is. It comes down to it being literally just that, a cost issue. It's exorbitant. It's a lot. And like I said, my main sponsor is my left and my right pocket. I mean, everything comes out of my own bank account. no one pays for anything. So at the end of the day, I gotta limit myself on what I can, what I need or not. And don't forget, once you crash with the suit 1 or 2 times, that suit is done. So it's expensive. I mean, the helmets are expensive, and we don't buy cheap helmets. We buy expensive helmets. But I mean, it's our bumper, right? So the suit is the same thing. It's a very oxymoron situation for myself because I believe in the safety for the riders. I believe in the safety for myself, but at the same time, I also have a budget, and there's certain things that eventually I gotta stop, and I can't, I gotta say no to. And being having a airbag suit, the suit itself, yes, I would love to have it, but
All right, well, maybe there's somebody out there who's got a spare D-Air suit that's gonna donate it to Alex Cuello. Stuart, I think we've got one more question before we wrap up tonight's show.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. This final one for Alex is, what is your take on amateurs moving from amateur to pro? It's a hot topic we've talked about based on either lap times or point standings. What's your opinion?
you mean that at the end of a season, only the top 3 go to pro, and that's it? Yeah, that.
We've had, the thing is, it seems like we've had soft years where riders are being promoted, and we've had examples this year where you have back marker pros running mid-pack amateur lap times, and as you talked about with the 110% rule at Daytona and safety, this rider in particular is an amateur wanting to know how a rider's status should be judged.
I think it obviously, your points at the end of the season, but it should be stacked upon your time lapse, your lap times, because not everyone does a season. So you always have the same, you always have the same people that are coming back and forth, and they're running these blistering times, and yet they're still stuck in that same category when they should be moved up, or they should, they should be moved up. Well, and then they start complaining or arguing that people are too slow on the track and they're dangerous, they're this. Yes, there are some people that also shouldn't be there. Not to say that one day they won't make it, but there's got to be a limit, I mean, once you get a certain speed and you're able to do it over and over, I think it's time for you to move on. If you're not up to par yet, then maybe go back to club racing and perfect your art and then bring it over. Yeah, it does become very, very dangerous to have bike markers that are way different in times than the front runners.
Well, on that note, Alex Cuello, we want to thank you for coming on Track Announcer's Notebook. Have a safe trip from Montreal to Miami. Hopefully the weather's great all the way down. And next Monday night, Stuart is going to compile the Alex Cuello report card showing how you did in all 5 of those races. And feel free to send us some photos, particularly at Ducati Revs Miami. Maybe a nice photo with you and Daytona 200 winners Jake Zemke and Josh Herron. It'll be interesting to see whether Herron has a Ducati on the track there at Homestead.
Will do. Thank you for having me on, and I'm so sorry. I mean, it's been overdue for a long time. Thank you. It was a pleasure being on, and yeah, I'll definitely get some pictures for you guys, and who knows, maybe I'll come back again after Homestead and show them to you.
All right. Okay. Well, Stuart will pile all that information into Nodell's notes for next Monday night. All the best. Enjoy the 26 degrees and sunshine, Alex, as we deal with some snow and winter weather here in Ontario and Quebec. Well,
I plan on it. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks to all the fans too. Thank you.
Alex, be well. I want to thank Alex Cuello and Stuart Nodell. Years coming to a quick end. We're just less than a month away from Christmas.